Hi guys, and welcome back to another IBRACORP video. Thanks for coming back and checking out the channel today. We hope we have an exciting topic for you that we've been working on in the background. Recently, we were approached by some of the developers over at CrowdSec. If you haven't heard of CrowdSec, there's a bit of buzz around it at the moment, so you may have already heard about it. But if you haven't, CrowdSec is a free, open source and collaborative IPS, so Intrusion Prevention System. It analyzes behaviors, responds to attacks, and shares signals across the community. So we're super excited to show you this video today. A big thank you goes to some of the developers over at CrowdSec for approaching us to do this video. Thank you very much for choosing to work with us. And a big massive thank you, of course, to Hawks, our admin over in the IBRACORP Discord. He has basically written up this guide today, so I present it to you on his behalf. Thank you very much, Hawks, for your contribution to our community. So today we're going to show you installing and using CrowdSec. On top of that, we're going to throw in some bonuses, which is the Traefik Bouncer with the Authelia and Vaultwarden collections. So this ties in really well with our previous videos on Traefik, on Authelia and on Vaultwarden that we've already covered in great detail. So if you're interested in setting up those, be sure to check our videos out on those subjects on our channel. So if you want to know more about CrowdSec, how to get it going, how to get it set up with Traefik, Authelia and Vaultwarden, then this is the video for you. Without further ado, let's get stuck into it. Alright guys, thanks very much for popping in like I said, and today we're looking at CrowdSec. Now I'm on their main website, crowdsec.net, and yeah, recently we were approached by the team over at CrowdSec to take a look and investigate and present a video to our community members and our fans to see what they think of the product. Now, it's probably a little bit unfair to call it a product. It's not something you buy. It's free and open source, and it's community driven, which is something that's really, really good for the open source community and abroad. So if I just go through the website real quick, outnumbering cyber criminals all together. That's their motto. Now, what it allows you to do is set up your own intrusion detection system. Apply behavior scenarios to identify cyber threats. So first, it will pass logs and it will acquire that data from any source. So system logs, cloud trails, etc. It will then automate the security. So you can define the type of remediation you want to apply and where. So do you want it to just instantly block them, redirect them, whatever the case might be. You get to leverage the community's IP block list. So basically we get to share and benefit from a crowdsourced and curated cyber threat intelligence system. Now, of course, we have dedicated cybersecurity teams and organizations that do this on a daily basis. And so they provide information based on either their products or to help the community out in general. But what makes this different is that it's community driven rather than product driven or business driven. So it means that it can be a ever evolving and living organism in such a way that allows people to contribute and benefit from the project all the time. As I said, it's open source and participative. It's designed to run seamlessly on VMs, bare metal servers, containers, or to be called directly from your code with their API. So that means that basically you have many different ways that you can deploy CrowdSec and many different ways you can have it in your existing stacks, perhaps your server at home, even safe to say a business organization that wants to leverage that protection. Gives you collaborative security, it's stateless and decoupled, which is great. High performance, very easy to use. Hopefully by the end of this video, you will say the same. Multi-layer and IPv6 ready. It's observable, so dashboards are great steering tools, and CrowdSec is no exception. It's instrumented with Metabase and Prometheus to help you make smarter investments of both time and money and better defend yourself. It's also got compliance reporting. So as I said, ISO 9001, for example, you want to meet your ISO requirements, you can do so. And best of all, it's privacy focused. So we're GDPR compliant, meaning they take privacy seriously. So at the moment, if we come down, you can see where we can use it. And this gives us a good rundown of where they're at the moment and where they plan to be. So operating systems, we've got Linux and FreeBSD. And that is an interesting one because we're then talking about things like pfSense. Mac OS, Windows, and OpenWRT, if you're using those operating systems, they are coming soon. But I highly suggest you still watch this video because there's going to be a lot of information that will carry over in terms of how it works and how to implement it. The services that they currently offer: IP tables, NF tables, Nginx, Apache, Caddy, and PF. As I said, pfSense, that's coming soon. Languages, we've got WordPress, PHP, and JS. You've got Go, Symfony, Python, and Arduino coming soon. Platforms, we're talking about Docker, AWS, Google Cloud, and Cloudflare. Envoy, Traefik, and Azure coming soon. We're going to be showing you the Traefik Bouncer. So guys, look, a lot of information there, plenty of stuff that will benefit you to have a read through and make sure you fully understand what this organization is all about. We also have listed this in our documentation. That's right, we have done a document for this video as well, and you'll find it over on docs.ibracorp.io. I'll put the link down in the description below as well. So we have a lot more information in there, and all the instructions that I show you today are in there, and we'll be able to click and paste the commands as we've written them to make it easier for you to get started. So with that introduction, why don't we get started with an installation and just show you how this all runs. All right guys, so we're here on our Ubuntu server, and pretty much anywhere that you're going to be running Linux, you can follow along with this. And if you have to customize it for your particular operating system, please go ahead and do that. But the commands we've provided should help most people get going as is. This also assumes a certain number of things, like where you have your Docker containers, app data stored, and things like that. So you may have to modify the commands to match your file and folder structure where it's different. Otherwise, you can again just follow it as is. So right now, make sure we're signed in as the user that you typically use for your server, and copy the first command, which is going to create the CrowdSec shared log folder. Let's paste that in, and you can see here what we're saying is make the directory var/log/CrowdSec. We're going to change the ownership to the current user, and I want you to apply it to that new folder that we just created. All right, we've put our sudo password in. The next thing we're going to do is create the app data folder. Now we're using Docker, and all of our Docker containers live in a folder. But just paste this, called opt or opt/appdata. In your scenario, you may have opt/the app, so you may not even need app data. Depends on your setup. In our case, for the purpose of this video, we're using opt/appdata/CrowdSec. So what we're going to do then is create our app data directory now. So we're creating that there under app data, hit enter, and we have the folder created. If you don't have app data already in there, then obviously backspace it up until that point, create that first, then add the CrowdSec folder. The next thing we want to do is create our Docker Compose. So let's paste the command in, and we're saying we're going to create a Docker Compose YML. We're going to edit it with Nano. Choose any editor you prefer. If you want to use Code Server following our Code Server video, obviously you can do that as well. So let's hit enter, and we have an empty Docker Compose file ready to go. If you're following our written documentation with this video, we have provided the template for you. You can just click and paste like so. So let's have a look at what it's doing. The Compose file obviously pulls down the CrowdSec container from their repository. It internally exposes port 8080. It assigns a PGID, assuming your PGID is 1000. By default, it should be 1000 anyway. And then it attaches these volumes. We have opt/appdata/CrowdSec/data. We then have opt/appdata/CrowdSec, which maps to etc CrowdSec. And like I said at the start, if you don't have CrowdSec in this particular folder path, just adapt it to what suits you. These ones, however, you shouldn't need to change, so you can leave those ones as they are. Just leave them as they are and then continue down. We have a restart unless stopped parameter in there, which is great. And then we've attached it to our internal Docker network, our custom Docker network, which we've called proxy. So if you're using a custom Docker network, which we always recommend, set that here. Now with that set, Control O, hit enter, and then Control X. Now what we want to do is navigate to that folder. So let's go to that folder now. We're inside the folder where CrowdSec is. So then what we want to do is fire up that Docker Compose file we created. Let's paste that in, sudo docker compose up -d. Now if you're using Compose version 2, we don't need the hyphen, so we can take that out and then hit enter. And as you can see, the container is now pulling down, which is fantastic. So give that a minute to start up. And if we just type in docker ps, always forget the sudo. Let's go sudo docker ps, and we can see all of our containers running. So let's have a look for it. And we can see CrowdSec at the top there. It's running on port 8080, which is exposed internally. And I'm just going to run it again, and we'll just make sure it's stayed up. So it's been up for 25 seconds. That's already a good sign. And if we look at the logs here for CrowdSec, we can see that it's doing quite a bit. It's updating itself. It's grabbing all the new information, anything that's been updated on geo IPs, whitelists, etc. And now it's running up to date. So you've essentially now installed CrowdSec, but we want to make use of it. So how does that work? So what we essentially need to do is install a bouncer. Let's clear this screen out. And what we want to do is install the Traefik Bouncer. We use Traefik here, and we've shown you how to use Traefik as well. So we probably assume you've got Traefik going. If you don't, obviously, like I said, they do support Nginx and Nginx Proxy Manager, so that will help you if you're using that as a reverse proxy as well. Now, the aim here is to implement a CrowdSec Bouncer for the router Traefik to block malicious IP to our services. So for this, it leverages Traefik version 2 forward auth middleware and queries CrowdSec with client IPs. If the client IP is on the ban list, it will get a HTTP code 403 response. Otherwise, the request will continue as usual. And so just to show you what I mean, this is in our documentation that you will hopefully be reading alongside the video if you want that extra help. And it gives you a nice image here. So the flow of information comes into Traefik. Traefik sends the forward auth to CrowdSec. CrowdSec replies with a decision. If it's all good, then it continues as normal. Then we have explanations on parsers. So the parsers take log formats and break them into readable information for the CrowdSec app. We'll be using the Traefik parser to take the Traefik access logs and pass that information over to the CrowdSec app to make the decisions. Bouncers, on the other hand, react to the decision made by CrowdSec. So in this case, the Traefik bouncer will take the decision made by CrowdSec and either allow or deny the traffic going through Traefik. CrowdSec on its own will just make the decision to ban IPs. It will do this by connecting back to the mothership to get the information required to make the decisions locally. And that's what we were saying about it being a community managed initiative. So it can reach out, update what the IPs are that it should be banning, and come back to you. And a perfect scenario here is a brute force attack that's going on. You can choose which scenarios you would like to check the traffic against. In this traffic collection, we'll be using the typical HTTP behaviors. So we've run that command that's in our docs here to add the Traefik bouncer, as you can see above. And it's given us an API key. Now, it's critically important that we keep that API key secure. Don't show it off like I am here. Obviously, I will be changing it after this video, but you need to note this down. It will only give it to you once and you won't be able to retrieve it. So copy it somewhere safe. I've just highlighted it, which copies it to the clipboard. And I've just pasted it in a notepad for the moment until we move on. So now what we want to do is add the API and the collection. So how do we do that? We need to edit the compose file that we were just in. So if I go to sudo nano, and then we go to dockercompose.yml, we can essentially take the information that we've given you already and you just add it in here. So if I come down under the CrowdSec for services, give it a gap and paste in the following, which is in our docs, it gives us the CrowdSec Traefik bouncer. It's going to ask for the API key and then the agent host, which is where CrowdSec is running. And that's correct because we haven't changed it from above, which as you can see here is 8080. So take that API key that you've just copied from the command earlier, and we need to add it in here. There we go. We have our API key. We follow down. We can see it depends on CrowdSec. So obviously CrowdSec has to run first. That's all we've changed. We Control O, hit enter, and then Control X. Then we want to map the log files. So take the command we've given you here, which is going to open up a nano for CrowdSec and create a acquis.yml. Now, if you like, you can take everything out of it and put in what we've provided in our docs. Now, what does that give us? The file name, which is referring to the Traefik logs, the label, which is Traefik, and then a file name for auth.log, and it's a type of syslog. Control O, enter again, and Control X. So now we want to enable logging with Traefik. Now to do that, we type in this command so that we can open up the Traefik YML. Now in my case, Traefik doesn't live in app data, it just lives in opt. So we hit that and it takes us to our Traefik file. I'll scroll down to the bottom and we add the access log command that we've given you here. And if you scroll up, we will find the middleware section, which you can see under HTTP. And we basically want to tell Traefik that we want to use CrowdSec as a middleware. So let's paste this in and you'll see CrowdSec-bouncer at file. I'm actually going to drop it at the bottom here. You can see we have a duplicate actually of these. So we'll take that out and we have CrowdSec-bouncer at file. Now Control O and Control X again. And then open up your file config. So the dynamic config that you have for Traefik. Now you'll understand most of this terminology if you've watched our Traefik guide. It's really important that you guys check that out because that is obviously the foundation of what we're doing here. So what we want to do is edit that dynamic file now for Traefik. Hit enter. And under middlewares, you can see we've got auth and then forward auth. And then we have gzip. So underneath that, I'm just going to make a space and we're just going to paste CrowdSec Bouncer as you can see here. And basically it's telling us to forward that auth through the bouncer. Control O again, Control X, and we're out of the file. We now want to edit the Docker Compose for Traefik. So what we'll do is backspace this, take it to where our Traefik Compose lives. And all we've done is add the volume here, as you can see, that's in our documentation as well, underneath the volume section. So we're mapping that volume for the logs for CrowdSec. Control O, Control X to get back out again. And now we pretty much just want to restart Traefik and we want to restart CrowdSec. So what we do is run this command to go to the location where that Docker Compose lives and then execute the Docker Compose up. Again, I'm using version 2, so we'll take the hyphen out and hit enter. And basically that's going to recreate our Traefik container. Once that's done, we'll do the same for CrowdSec. So using that command to find the container's Docker Compose YML, and then we relaunch it again. Once again, I'm using version 2, so we do that. Now, if you guys do have version 1, I haven't done it on this server yet, but if you are using, did have version 1 and then went to version 2, you can actually just install a tool that will automatically forward commands that were for version 1 onto version 2 for you automatically. I just haven't done it on this server yet. So we've done Traefik and we've done the CrowdSec containers. They've restarted with all the new stuff that we just added. What we'll do now is quickly check the logs. And straight away, one of the first things you're going to see if you're looking here is it's performed a check, localhost CrowdSec SSHBF by IP this. It's applied a 4-hour ban on that IP address. So it's already working for us and helping protect us without us even really doing anything. We've pretty much set it up, fire and forget, and it gets to work for us. Now, as promised, guys, we're going to give you the 2 extra bonuses here, which is Authelia and Vaultwarden. Now, that's pretty much as simple as adding the collections. So back in your Docker Compose for CrowdSec, which I'm already in the folder, but if you're not, so what we want to do in this folder for CrowdSec again is edit that Docker Compose. And we go in as sudo enter, and we're back in the file. So we have the CrowdSec Traefik Bouncer, and that's working great. What we want to do then is add our Authelia collection. And so to do that, under environment, you've got the PGID, drop a line right underneath that, and paste in what's in our documentation, which gives you collections. It then gives you this collection here. So we've got CrowdSec, Security, Traefik, CrowdSec, HTTP, CVE, and then La Presidente Authelia. So it gives us those 3 collections. Worth noting that I didn't actually show you before that this was part of the Traefik step as well. So for Traefik, if you're not doing this for Authelia, you would already have up to this point entered. And now all we've added is the La Presidente Authelia section. So we've added this collection here. So that's my bad. I did miss that earlier. Make sure you have these collections in here for the Traefik part of things. So in fact, I don't even think it was using Traefik yet, but now we've added Authelia. And the same goes for Vaultwarden. So I told you we would show you Vaultwarden as well. Pretty straightforward. We now add the Vaultwarden collection to the end of it. So if you just want to go to the end, hit a space, and then in our documentation, we've given you the repo for it. So you just add that in there. So now we've got Vaultwarden protected with it as well. Control O, enter, and Control X. Then we want to add Authelia to the acquisition.yml. So go back to that file, and in here, we want to add that in. So underneath the syslog section, we paste that in there, and that gives us the Authelia logs now. Again, same thing for Vaultwarden. If you want to add the Vaultwarden one, go ahead and do that now. If you're not using Vaultwarden, you don't need to add this. I'm just showing you for reference. With that done, again, we save and exit. And now we want to enable logging to that file again. So we're basically repeating that steps that we did right at the start for Traefik. So we go to the Authelia folder where you have Authelia living. In my case, it lives here. After some hunting around, my Authelia lives here. So just find wherever your Authelia lives, obviously. And under the logs section, drop to underneath that and add the following. Make sure it matches what we've got in our docs if you want to. Otherwise, customize it as you prefer. So with the logs, the level I've got set is debug. I just do that, but you can also have info in there. The format we're telling it to do though is JSON, and we want it to store it in this location. Hit enter and then exit. Now in the same folder as above, we want to edit the Docker Compose file. So hit that. And under the volumes, we paste this path, taking us back to CrowdSec, of course. Control and exit. Now at this point, we can recreate the containers for Authelia and CrowdSec, but I'll go through the last steps for Vaultwarden so that we can be on the same page and do it all at once. Now I'm not using Vaultwarden on this particular server, so I'm going to show you the command, but basically just adapt it to your own needs. You want to go to your Docker Compose file, just like all the other steps, and we want to add a couple of fields. So just make sure under your environment section that it looks like this basically. Under your volume section, it looks like this. So again, we're mapping to that CrowdSec area there. And once you've saved all that, we restart the containers. So with the exception of Vaultwarden, since I'm not using it, we're going to be doing it for Authelia and for CrowdSec. So there's my Authelia path and the Docker Compose command, and we wait for that to recreate. And the same for CrowdSec. So now they've both been restarted, we should be right. Now let's have a quick look at the logs. And that's starting to look pretty good. So we can see Authelia is running. The Authelia checks are running. The Vaultwarden checks are running as well. We don't actually have Vaultwarden running at the moment, so I'll be surprised if that's doing anything. And there you go, guys. As you can see through the logs, it's looking pretty good, and CrowdSec is now working hard to protect us from all these dangerous sources. To be sure, the detected behaviors that it can pick up is applicative DDoS, drive-by download, resource abuse, credentials brute forcing, PHP-based Armageddon, port scans, web scans, credential stuffing, bot scraping, and targeted attacks. That's a lot of stuff that normally you would find in an enterprise firewall feature list that we're getting for free and is crowdsourced. Alright guys, so the last thing I'm going to show you is also registering our CrowdSec instance online. Now what this is going to do is allow us to have a dashboard, which obviously everybody loves a good dashboard. So let me show you how to do that real quick. And now we're here on app.crowdsec.net, and what we're going to do is subscribe. Alright, and now that we've subscribed, we've signed in, and we're greeted with this message on the main page, which is to enroll ourselves into the CrowdSec terminal. Now what we want to do is run this command. However, because we're running in Docker, it's going to look a little bit different. So all you need to do is take this part here, which has the code that we need to enroll ourselves, and copy that. And what we want to do is add ourselves to the Docker user group. That'll allow us to run Docker commands without having to have sudo in front of it. So we can paste that in, sudo usermod -ag docker and then the user, which is us. Then type in new group Docker. Okay, so we've run our command now, and we've customized it a little bit from what we saw in the dashboard. So we've got docker exec CrowdSec, CSLI console, enrol, and then the code. Then we can see it's processed it, and then it asks us to restart CrowdSec. Easy peasy, we just paste docker restart CrowdSec, and that should be done. Now come back to your dashboard, and you'll see that it gives us the approval request to join the dashboard. Once you do that, basically go ahead and accept it. Now that it's been accepted, we can pretty much see everything we need in the dashboard. What's going on, what kind of alerts we might have, what's running, what bouncers we have. So as you can see, we've got our Traefik Bouncer there as well. And that gives you the dashboard basically to manage it, and you can access this remotely as well. So it's not hosted locally, it's hosted with them, and then you can log in and manage everything you need to. So pretty handy little tip there, definitely recommend you guys set that up. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this llama video covering CrowdSec. It'll definitely protect you now using Traefik and Authelia cover as well. On top of that, we've given you the Vaultwarden collection too. Big thank you to the community for their suggestions for new videos. If you feel like suggesting a video, jump in our Discord, let us know, and let us know in the comments below what you think of CrowdSec. A big thank you also to the CrowdSec team for approaching us once again. We really appreciate that. And a massive thank you one last time to Hawks for the great guide. We'd also like to thank our community member and IBRACORP team member Momus for all of his work working with Hawks to get this out there. We really appreciate it. Thank you very much everyone for working together on this one. If you like what we're doing here guys, be sure to support us by liking and subscribing on the video, or heading over to our website and subscribing as a member, which helps us financially to keep all of the systems running, to keep giving you great content and improving our quality. Thanks very much. We hope you enjoyed this video, and we can't wait to see you in the next IBRACORP video.